Welcome to the Roundup. I'm Tom Ingleton.
And I'm Jack Ward. In the Roundup, we're going to take a look at some of the biggest stories across arts, tech and political cartoons. But first, let's check out what's making news around the world.
The New York Times is covering drone strikes damaging buildings in Moscow. The drone attack is a sign the war is increasingly reaching the heart of Russia. The Ukrainian capital Kiev has faced a barrage of attacks in recent weeks that have put the city on edge and tested the country's air defences. The Times is also reporting on the decision by Governor Ron DeSantis to oppose the debt ceiling agreement struck by US President Biden. The American Congress has just days to raise the borrowing limit before the government goes into default on its debt.
Across the North Pacific, the Japan Times is leading with the news the country's Prime Minister has seen a boost in popularity, fueling rumours of a snap election. The Defence Ministry has given the order to shoot down a North Korean missile expected to send a satellite into space if it threatens Japan's territory. And a clinical trial for a drug to assist sufferers of acute strokes has hit a snag, prompting a crowdfunding campaign.
Shifting to South Africa now, the Cape Times is reporting on the Western Cape government severely slashing funds for child protection services. Several offices have already closed and more will follow suit as many are already running at a deficit. And a story about a primary school governing body disallowing an 8-year-old transgender boy from wearing a male swimsuit because it may cause social discomfort. The decision has been met with outrage by human rights organisations.
On the other side of the globe, the Irish Examiner is highlighting how government officials are still working on an allocation policy for rapid-built modular homes. They're set to be ready for Ukrainian refugees in just days, but it's unclear how the process will unfold. And professional rugby player Keith Earls has returned home with his Munster peers after winning the United Rugby Championship title in South Africa.
Over to Canada now, the Vancouver Sun is reporting on the man who has pled guilty to fatally stabbing a woman to death and injuring 6 others. And a truck has hit an overpass on the Trans-Canada Highway. Industry observers say it reinforces the need for better training and more oversight to deal with what has become a chronic problem.
And finally, the Gulf News in Dubai is reporting on the United Arab Emirates unveiling an ambitious space program. The 13-year exploration will study 7 asteroids beyond Mars, and the paper is also covering Iran's supreme leader, who says he will revive diplomatic relations with Egypt. Ties between the two countries soured in the late 1970s after the Islamic Revolution in Iran.
And that's all for today's front page world news. To tech news now, and the eSafety Commissioner has criticised the slowness of Twitter to respond to Australia's online safety issues. Julie Inman-Grant said it took months and multiple follow-ups for Twitter to act on concerns of child abuse material posted on the platform.
We are joined now by tech reporter Tim McDougall. Tim, Twitter has 330 million monthly users and one of the largest companies in the world. So why is it difficult for Australians to get a response?
Well, in October of 2022, when Elon Musk took over the company, he really had a restructuring. So what's that meant is that 7,800 of the staff have now been reduced to 1,500. And many of those are people who are part of the content filtration team. So what that means is now there is only one public policy content in the entirety of Southeast Asia. And that means it's extremely difficult for the Australian government to contact anyone from Twitter if they want to receive or take down content on the platform. In addition, this is a trend that looks likely to continue. So Twitter recently pulled out of the voluntary EU code for disinformation, which aims at preventing profiteering from fake news and disinformation. So it really is a volatile time for social media on misinformation.
Sure sounds like it. So last month, Turkey was able to get Twitter to take down negative Twitter commentary about their president during their election campaign. So Tim, why are other countries able to successfully take content down whilst Australia still struggles with the issue?
Well, essentially what's happened is Turkey has strong-armed Twitter. So ever since February 2023, where the Turkish earthquake hit, what's happened is that Turkey was largely criticised for their response on Twitter, and the Turkish government responded by taking down Twitter for over 24 hours. So basically what has happened is from that point onwards, anytime the Turkish government has wanted to take down content from the platform, they've been able to do so. So this has led to Green Senator David Shoebridge asking in the Senate whether Twitter was contemptuous for democratic governments, and also he responded and said that tyrants are more easily accessible than Australia to contact Twitter with.
In other news, Apple are set to announce their first ever VR headset this Monday. What have they done to make the decision stand out after difficulties Facebook had with their Meta VR headset?
So the new VR headset is called XROS. So it comes with a tethered battery pack designed to sit and be comfortable in a person's back pockets. So it's all viewed on high-resolution 4K OLED displays. So this is a new piece of technology really designed for rich, immersive viewing experience. So it has a screen on the front of the headset, so when other people are watching the other person use a VR headset, it is more intimate because you can see their facial expressions. And this is really the #1 design of the new device. So Apple CEO Tim Cook talked about this factor in an interview with Chinese News Daily. Take a listen.
I am incredibly excited about AR, as you might know. And the critical thing to any technology, including AR, is putting humanity at the center of it.
So Tim, the cost of the headset is $3,000. Have you got any spare change in your pocket, mate? Because I'll bloody need it. Which is very expensive for the average person. So who is the headset marketed to? Definitely not towards someone like me.
Well, that's certainly the question at the moment, Tom. So Meta had significant difficulty marketing their product over the last couple of years at a market price of between $600 and $800. So Apple have said they're going to release a cheaper prototype in 2024. So you'll find a lot of people will wait for that. So at the moment, in terms of the main market demographic, what we'll find is that it'll be tech developers looking to get ahead and market their product and get ahead early designing it, and really Apple super fans, like you said, with a bit of pocket change and that $3,000. So it feels like a bit like the launch of the original iPhone at the moment. So we're in a bit of that unknown sort of phase, heading towards an unknown territory. So it's a bit of a watch this space at the moment, Tom.
Sounds like it for sure. I'll have to rob a bank. That's all for Tech News today. Thanks for joining us, Tim.
Thanks, Tom.
To arts news now, the Melbourne Winter Masterpieces are opening at the start of June. The exhibition will present Pierre Bonnard's paintings with scenography by Paris-based designer India Madiva. We're joined now by arts reporter Sarah Hadid. Sarah, Pierre Bonnard is one of the most beloved painters of the 20th century. So what will the exhibition feature?
Well, he is, Tom. So the exhibition will feature Pierre Bonnard, a post-impressionist artist and painter, and he's most celebrated for the colour he uses. The exhibition will feature over 100 pieces of artwork that largely draw on the museum's impressive holdings by Bonnard, alongside loans from the other collections that featured in France. So the exhibition will feature a collection of paintings, drawings and photographs which will bring modern France to life.
And the National Gallery of Victoria have commissioned award-winning architect and designer India Madiva to design the exhibition's scenography. What can people look forward to seeing?
Well, Madiva appeared multiple times on Architectural Digest's list of 100 most influential architects and designers. So Madiva covers Pierre Bonnard's work in an environment which complements the artist's distinct use of colour and texture. And basically, Madiva engages with both art, history and contemporary culture to create a unique exhibition experience with Bonnard's work. The exhibition opening night is already sold out, so that'll make for one hell of a night.
Sure sounds like it. On to our next story. In an Instagram post, Phoebe Bridgers has announced her iconic Punisher tour is over. Phoebe performed her Punisher album for the last time at Taylor Swift's Eras tour.
Sarah, Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher album came out back in 2020. Her tour started 3 years ago, but it's only just finishing up now. Why did it run for so long?
Well, Jack, Phoebe started her reunion tour back in 2021, which was in support of her 2020 album Punisher, as we now know. She finished up the tour after 106 shows and 5 legs of the tour. Now, as we all know, some things have been pushed back due to COVID-19 pandemic. Bridges was unable to finish the tour because of that, which was in pursuit of her Punisher album, which came out back in 2020. Now, Phoebe finished up the tour at the end of April and played her last song at Taylor Swift's Eras tour. Let's take a look at that moment now.
So, I don't even know how to talk about this. This is our last night together on this tour. I don't know what to say. I'm really sad. I'm so sad. It's sad. You are my hero.
Sarah, Taylor Swift's Eras tour not only featured major artists such as Phoebe Bridgers, but is also breaking records all over the US. She's rumoured to be announcing international dates any day now. Will Australians get to see the Eras Tour live, do you think?
Well, Tom, Shameless Media has backed up a claim by Dumois that Taylor has actually booked out Melbourne's MCG for dates for Melbourne shows. Now, the Shameless podcast backed up this claim, sharing online that they had contact with a well-placed MCG rep for the MCG that she confirmed Melbourne shows. Now, Swift is currently performing her Eras Tour in the US, which features a 3-hour-long 44-song set list. Now, Swift, unsurprisingly, was named Australia's most streamed artist back in Spotify 2022 Wrapped. Now, me and many other people are keeping a blank space in our calendars. Only time will tell now if international tour dates are announced.
I cannot wait. I'm just worried about the prices. I'm not sure if they'll be in my budget. Thanks very much, Sarah.
Here's hoping.
Thanks, Sarah. Joining us today now is political reporter Oliver Walker-Peel. How are you, great man? Here at the desk to discuss some recent cartoons reflecting the current political climate. Ollie, the first cartoon you have for us today shows someone tied down to artificial intelligence. What can you tell us about it, mate?
I can tell you that it was created by Yassine Osman. It was published in the New Yorker and details the reliance that we've got on AI. Now, of course, university lecturers recently have been frustrated by the use of ChatGPT, and that is only set to continue with an annual growth rate of 37.3% from 2023 to 2030, according to the Grand Review research, and was included in a Forbes article. So if you are a university lecturer out there, you're in trouble because there's going to be more AI reports on the way. The caption details a level of control over the person, talking about updating them rather than it being the other way around. Of course, humans created AIs, and now it's being flipped on its head. So are we the masters of our own downfall? Time will tell. Experts warn that AIs could lead to the extinction of humanity, including OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. He would know because he's the CEO of a research lab company, and they're calling for monitoring to be made a global priority and for more regulation, which is absolutely scary. Of course, AI is a new thing. Early 20th century, we had pop culture talking about robots and AI, but now it's becoming a real problem, and I'm a little bit worried, to be honest with you.
So am I. It's very, very scary. You have a second image, which is from closer to home, showing Peter Dutton holding up a record of his greatest hits. Tell us more.
Well, greatest hits is an interesting way to put it, Jack, because Peter Dutton is a bit of a notion of insanity, doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting different results. He's tended to get the exact same ones, which has frustrated a lot of people. Now, of course, he is the current leader of the opposition. He took over from Scott Morrison in that role after he lost the recent election to Anthony Albanese. It refers to Peter Dutton's strong opposal of The Voice. Of course, we've got that referendum coming up soon. He claimed that The Voice would re-racialise Australia, claims that were rubbished by Anthony Albanese in Parliament last week. He's known for his divisive politics, has history of inflaming issues, and he also has a history of opposing everything his opposition says, which, given that he wants Anthony Albanese's seat, that's to be expected.
Good old Peter Dutton. We continue to watch this story unfold as we draw closer to the referendum. The final cartoon you have for us depicts ex-British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Here he attempts to erase elements from the UK's coronavirus crisis. What do you think this symbolises, Ollie?
Well, as a Brit, this is going to be very, very interesting to cover. So this is authored by Dave Brown of The Independent. Boris Johnson took office in July 2019 from Theresa May and was succeeded by Liz Truss in September 2022, who was then succeeded by Rishi Sunak in October. British politics, hey, there's always something happening, the gift that keeps on giving. Now, Boris Johnson famously announced stay-at-home orders in March 2020 when he proclaimed, "You must stay at home." Of course, those famous words uttered in front of the British flags. And then there was Partygate a couple of months later, where he contradicted those claims. May 2020 was the first of them. He claimed that there was no parties, including last week when he said that the claims were a total load of nonsense. There was parties in May 2020, and then parties in December 2020, known as Wine Time Fridays. If you have a look at the graphic, there is wine stains all over the papers, and he was referred to police in May following these parties.
What do you think he's drinking at that party, mate?
I'll tell you what, I'm not sure. I don't know Mr. Johnson personally, but I'll tell you what it isn't. It's definitely not Corona.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Ollie, for breaking down those political cartoons, mate. Pleasure to have you in.
Thank you for having me.
That's our roundup for today. Thank you to our reporters, Tim McDougall, Sarah Hadid, and Oliver Walker-Peel. For the roundup, I'm Tom Ingleton.
And I'm Jack Ward. We'll be back with the weather, sport, and more stories after this short break.